Rational numbers, 2-1. A number is rational if it can be written as a fraction. Almost every number that we work with can be written as a fraction. -5, you could write it as -5/1 fraction. 4.237, you could write it as 4 and 2/3/7 1/1000ths. You could change that by going 1,000 times 4 is 4,000, so that's 4,237/1,000. All of these numbers can be written as fractions. This one's already a fraction. This one's already a fraction. Everything on this page can be written as a fraction. That's what makes it a rational number. Rational numbers are the numbers we use every day. All the whole numbers, all the fractioning numbers, all the decimal numbers. So rational numbers are sort of like normal numbers. Simplifying fractions is the way this book puts it when it wants you to reduce. It will say, simplify. Make it as simple as possible. It means reduce the fraction. To reduce fractions, you decide what goes into both of them. What number goes into both 9 and 27? Well, 9 does. Okay, so divide the top and the bottom by 9. 9 divided by 9 equals 1. 27 divided by 9 equals 3. So this fraction reduces to 1/3. Most of us are pretty good at reducing. Sometimes you don't know the biggest number that will go into something, but you might know one number that will go into something. That's okay. Like on this one, 6, I know 2 goes into both, so I'm going to try 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 50 divided by 2 is 25. Now I have to ask myself, will anything else go into both of them? No, because 3 won't go into 25, so that's all the way reduced. It's important to reduce all the way. Sometimes they try to trick you by putting in something that won't reduce. They might put 7/19, and you're thinking, that's all the way reduced already. They might try 9/55. Well, 3 goes into 9, but will 3 go into 55? No. So reducing fractions, simplifying fractions, same thing. Sometimes the fractions are negative. That's okay. If I reduce a negative fraction like -12/15, let's see, what will go into both of those? 3. If I divide 12 by 3, I get 4. If I divide 15 by 3, I get 5. And all I did was reduce it, so it's still negative. So negative fractions reduce to a negative answer. Okay, now it's your turn. Let's practice. Reduce these 4 fractions. When you get them all the way reduced and you think your answers are right, turn the video back on. Okay, here's your answers. Remember, if the fraction is negative to start with, it's still negative when you reduce it. That's just logical. Writing decimals as fractions. Changing a decimal to a fraction. After all, fractions and decimals are parts of the whole, so they're really related, okay? So, again, if you have a negative decimal and you're just changing it to its fraction form, it's still going to be negative. So, first thing to do is write this as the whole number, -5, and 59 over something. So, that would be -5 and 59 over 100. Now, how do you know it's 100? Well, a couple ways. That reads 59 100ths. That's the tenths place, hundredths place, 59 hundredths. So that's how I know. Also, I know 1 2 places past the decimal makes 1 2 zeros down here. 2 places, 2 zeros. Okay? Now, once I get it written like that as a mixed number, The next thing I have to decide is, does it reduce? Does 59/100ths reduce? Because all fractions always need to be reduced. The good news about this one, it doesn't reduce. Nothing goes into 59/100, and sometimes you have to play around and see, but this one does not reduce. Now this other one, the 0.5714, doesn't have a whole number part, it's just a plain old decimal. So we're going to write it down, 5714 on top of 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. How do you know which one? Well, again, you go back to the place value and you say, oh, that's tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. Or you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 zeros. Either way, that works. So that's 10,000ths. 4 zeros. This one is going to reduce. How can I tell it's going to reduce? Well, I can tell because this is an even number, and this is an even number, and all even numbers divide by 2. So, the first thing I'm going to do to reduce it is I'm going to try dividing by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2, okay? Well, 5714, or 5,714, when you divide it by 2, you get 2857. When you divide 10,000 by 2, you get 5,000. Now, that's all the way reduced. Nothing will go into it more. You could use divisibility rules to check if you know them. You could get out a calculator and try all the numbers. You could try the numbers with pen and paper. Okay, but you've got to all the way reduce things. But that's how you change a decimal to a fraction. Let's try one more. What if it was 0.09? What would that be as a fraction? Well, the 9 goes on top, and underneath goes 100. Why 100? Because that's 9/100ths, isn't it? And isn't that 1 2 decimal places, so 1 2 zeros? See the relationship? What if it had said 0.0009? Then I would have put 9 over 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. 4 decimal places, 4 zeros. Get it? Wonderful, lovely. Okay, try these. Change these decimals to their fraction equivalents. When you're done, then turn the video back on and see if you got them all right. Now, here's your answers. Check them. Here's the cool thing about this. If you are memorizing your fraction decimal equivalents, the common ones that I gave you that we're having a quiz over next Wednesday, you shouldn't have had to divide or reduce or do anything hard because every one of these is on that sheet. 0.75 is 3/4. 3/4 is 0.75. Remember, think quarters. 0.4 is 2/5. Remember 2/5, double the top number, the fifths family. Here's the fifths family again, -2, 0.2. 0.2 is 1/5. And the eighths family, remember the eighths family? 0.625 is 7/8. Now, if you didn't think of that, you might have done this. You might have gone 75/100, that would be right, but then you have to reduce it to get 3/4. Okay? You might have gone -2 and 2/10, that's right, but it's got to be reduced. You might have said, well, that's 4/10, that's right, reduced to 2/5. Or you might have gone 625/1000. And then you have a long way to go till you finally get it reduced down to 7/8. See how valuable learning and memorizing the fraction decimal equivalents could be? So learn them. Now, to change fractions to decimals, remember, a negative fraction is still going to be a negative decimal, but to change them, you can always divide up. Dividing up works every time, which means top number in the box. So if I was going to change 5/4 to a decimal, I could say 5 in the box, 4 out here, and I could divide. Let's just do that. Okay, 4 goes into 5 one time. Bring down a 0. 4 goes into 10 two times. Okay, that's 8. And 4 goes into 20 5 times, and I'm done. Now, that's lovely, but I don't like to divide. I would rather memorize my fraction decimal equivalents, because if I took 5/4 and changed it to proper or a mixed number, I would get 1 and 1/4. Well, guess what? I know that 1/4 is 0.25, so 1.25. So to me, learning the equivalents and doing this is so much easier than doing this. Okay, same thing with the next one. I can put 1 in the box. I'm not going to worry about the negative number because I already know the answer is going to be negative. It's a negative fraction, it's going to be a negative decimal. So I'm just going to put 1 in the box, top number in the box, put 6 outside, put some zeros, I never know how many, and start dividing. 6 goes into 10 one time. That's 6. Okay. 6 goes into 40 6 times. And at that point, it's going to start to repeat. See how the 6 is going to start to repeat? Well, the answer is negative still, remember? 0.16 repeating. But guess what? If I memorized my fraction decimal equivalents, I already know that 1/6 is 0.16 repeating. So I would have just gone straight from here to here if I had my fraction decimal equivalents memorized and saved myself a lot of work. Just saying. Okay, here's your video homework. Change all 4 of these to decimal form. You can use your fraction decimal equivalent sheet. You can divide up. Some of them you have to divide up on. Remember, the top number goes in the box. Not the biggest number, the top number goes in the box. Have a nice evening.